Well, gang, Gemini 3 has landed. The much anticipated, much hyped new update to Google's flagship AI model is now widely available. And we didn't just get a new version update, but a few new interesting features as well. I've already spent a few days with Gemini 3, so we're going to go over all of the big announcements and take a look at it in action. So let's go check out what the chefs at Google have cooked up. So normally you guys know that I tend to cover the creative side of Gen AI. So more on the VO3, Nanobanana, Imagine, and I guess in Google terms at least, Lyria. To be completely honest, I've actually never done a video on Lyria. I should probably check it out at some point or another. But if there is one thing that's becoming very clear of late is that the wall, well, really if one ever existed between the language side of things and the generative side of things, well, that's rapidly dissolving because models like Gemini and ChatGPT are becoming multimodal. And that is the thing that Google is really flexing with Gemini 3, calling it the best model in the world for multimodal understanding and their most powerful agentic and vibe coding model yet. So what they released today is Gemini Pro in preview, and it's available in kind of all the standard places: Gemini Studio, via the API, Vertex, and something new called AntiGravity. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Now, in terms of benchmarks, and to be honest, this is not something that I put a lot of stock in, but we're talking about an LM, so we have to talk about benchmarks. It's a bit like, putting your kids' A+ math paper on the refrigerator. Anyhow, it does top the LM Arena leaderboard at 1,501 points and surpasses the previous record holder, Gemini 2.5 Pro, by 50 ELO. Did you guys watch the last video, by the way? It is ELO, not ELO, so not Mr. Blue Sky. It also scored fairly high on the dystopianly named Humanity's Last Exam, hitting a 37.5% there, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but that was just Gemini 3.0 raw dogging it without access to any other tools. So 37.5, that's a failing grade in any other metric, but in this case, that's actually pretty good. Last bit on benchmarks, and then we're going to get out of this section. It does very well in multimodal reasoning with breakthrough scores of 81% and 87.6% on, again, the video and multimodal side of things, and 72.1% on simple QA verified, which shows great progress on factual accuracy. And kind of as a last bit on percentages, because I know that, some of you probably see 70 to 80%, and you're thinking well, why isn't it 100%? To that, if we looked back at SimA 2, which we looked at in the last video, that utilizes Gemini 3 to complete tasks within games, jokingly, it plays Minecraft and No Man's Sky for you. But if we look at the task completion success rate there, it's at around 65%. And while the standard human is just above 75%. But again, as I mentioned in that previous video, the important part to note here is that less than a year ago, we had SimA 1, and that was scoring 31%. So in, just under a year, we have, doubled. So moving out of numbers and moving into features, probably the one that I'm kind of most excited about is Gemini Agent, which is based off of Project Mariner, which they introduced in 2.5. So this is a thing that can break down requests via deep research and Canvas, along with, your Gmail, your calendar, and live web browsing. So yeah, that generalist agent that can kind of hop its way across, your entire Google account. That's something that, we have been promised and have been hoping for quite some time. Essentially like Siri that works. Now at launch, Gemini Agent is only going to be available to those on the Ultra plan, so the ultra expensive one. But hopefully as time goes on, it'll start to filter its way down. The other really interesting feature that's dropping today, I didn't actually have early access to this one, but this is generative interface. So this basically ends up creating a interactive presentation essentially to your prompt queries. In the example they provided, it's explain the Van Gogh gallery with life context for each piece, and essentially it generates up a little mini web page for you. In another example that they provided where, you might ask Gemini to plan a 3-day trip to Rome next summer, instead of just answering in a standard text format, it'll give you, sort of these sliders to control how long you want to stay, what types of activities you want to do, and lots of pretty pictures along the way. Admittedly, dynamic view is pretty early in. They qualify it as an experimental feature. Obviously, the examples that they give are a bit on the benign side. I'm really looking forward to, us getting a hold of it today, I guess, and really kicking the tires on it though. Now on the vibe coding side, Google is saying that Gemini 3 is the most powerful model they've ever built, topping the web dev arena leaderboards. Great, more benchmarks. Luckily, in this case, I did have early access, so we can play around with this. We don't have to look at benchmarks. We can look at actual work. So the first thing I had to do was just to build me a Missile Command clone, essentially as a one-shot. And yeah, I mean, it did a pretty solid job. It technically is a two-shot because I had to build a little audio toggle because you guys don't want to hear it go pew pew this whole time. But yeah, wow, I'm really terrible at this game. It did pull it off. Next test as a one-shot, combining actually, well, two popular tests, that of creating essentially, the Minecraft voxel world and the now standardized SVG of a pelican riding a bicycle. We ended up with this. Now, in a nod to Black Forest Labs, Flux 2, I did have the pelican wearing some VR goggles. But yeah, I mean, overall, it looks pretty good. If you had to nitpick, I mean, the wings are not actually gripping the handlebars there, but I mean, also it's a pelican riding a bicycle. I mean, it's pretty silly. But yeah, overall pretty good. Nice shading on this as well. Now on the non one-shot side of things, I had to build me out Hell Maze, which is, I mean, essentially it's a Doom clone, except I have a Gatling gun and unlimited ammo, and really all I have to do is run around and kill 40 demons. Because sometimes I don't want to, that's all I want to do. I just want to shoot a bunch of demons. So yeah, I mean, it's a little silly. It's a little bit janky, but it's also, I don't know, weirdly kind of relaxing for me as well. Oh, I also had to give me a rocket launcher as well. I haven't actually done too much with that yet, but silly, but again, stress relieving. I also had to build me out a guitar tuner. I actually can't demo this because of the way the audio is routed. It's a big mess, but I will say one of the benefits of essentially working within Google and having the mobile app is that I was able to use the mobile app to try it out. And indeed, it does work. And finally, one thing that I don't think is tested enough these days is these models' ability to handle like creative writing. So I gave it the assignment to write the first 10 pages of a screenplay in an action horror supernatural genre about a world-renowned jewel thief who dies while on a heist. When he reaches the afterlife, he's given an ultimatum: steal a lost heavenly artifact from hell and return it to St. Peter or face eternal damnation. I then told it that it should be in professional script format and then export it as a PDF. Immediately it came back with, I can't generate a downloadable PDF. That said, the script that it ended up generating, actually not half bad. It was called The Devil's Take, and we'll take a look at this in just a second. But essentially what I did is I just, took this whole section, copy pasted it, and opened up a new canvas that would allow me to copy paste in the unformatted text and have it actually output a script format style, and then be able to export it as well. As for the script itself, well, it's actually not that bad. It does have some of those like telltale AI writing signs. Like, it just moves far too quickly. For example, by like page 3, our main character has already essentially, passed on. He's now, I will give it credit for this, in the warden's office, essentially St. Peter's office, which is kind of a 1940s detective office. So clearly Gemini knows me. It did come up with the idea that our MacGuffin item that needs to be stolen is the skeleton key of Solomon, a key that opens any door, physical, spiritual, or metaphysical. And I gotta say, a part that really sort of surprised me was that our main character Elias immediately moves into, well, I need a team for this heist. And then we start moving into a bit of a montage of him pulling his team together. His first partner is a character named Sarah Vane, who died in 1929. She's the driver, a rum runner, but she is also related to the estate where our main character Elias died. So that's actually pretty smart. And by page 9, we've introduced a few more characters to round out our crew, and we now have a ticking clock of 24 hours to get the job done. Now, overall, I would say, pacing-wise, it definitely moves far too quickly. It kind of reads more like a fast-paced comic book, but I will give it credit to having a lot of really good ideas, and the dialogue is actually not as like cringy as it was in the last iteration of LLMs. On the script formatting side, we definitely ran into some issues via the translation. Here we can see Elias speaking. That's supposed to be a centered line, and then down here we have camera pulls and then back. So yeah, I mean, there are some problems again here and there. If you want to check this out, by the way, I'll have a link down down below. It definitely does need a lot of work, but again, if you have this idea that's been kind of rattling around your head and you want to see if it's got legs, I mean, this is a pretty good way of testing the waters. The other big announcement was on Google's AntiGravity, which is its agentic development platform. It is aimed more at designers, but the difference here is that these agents are actually able to open up a web browser and check on their own work. Not only that, but I guess there's an element in here called artifacts that essentially keeps receipts so that, instead of just saying like, I fixed the bug and you don't know what it did, it will actually provide you with a checklist of what it has done. So while AntiGravity isn't necessarily for everyone, it is actually available in public preview at no charge with generous rate limits on Gemini 3 Pro usage. So if you do want to give it a shot, a link to it is down below. So overall, did Google cook here? Well, first off, I got to give them a credit at the fact that Gemini 3 Pro is available across all of the Gemini tiers. Take note of that, OpenAI. That said, did the hype cycle leading up to it build it up to like Google AGI? I mean, probably. Is it that? No, it isn't, but it's still a pretty decent step up from 2.5, which I do want to point out was only about 8 months ago. And look, there's still a lot of stuff in the wind. Like we still don't officially have Nanobanana 2 yet. And, I've heard some whispers around the corner about VO4. I don't know if they're true. I'm just saying I've heard whispers about it. Plus, of course, we've got the hopeful release of some version of Genie 3, all of which is to say, I don't think it'll be long before I'm making another video. So I'm sure I will see you again very soon. In the meantime, as always, I thank you for watching. My name is Tim.